Okay. Hello and welcome to CirclemakersTV. If you can see us and hear us, say so in the chat channel because then we will love you long time. So there we go. It says kicked up. Same on Firefox. So can you see and hear us this time? Let's see what's going on. So if you're new to Circle Makers TV, I'll give you a little description of what we've got going for you. You can Skype the show, although we've got a guest coming on later on, so we don't know if we might be able to take some Skype calls. Yeah. Then you can also go to our website, which is www.circlemakerstv.org. The other place you can have a look is in the live stream chat window, which if you're watching this live should be sort of down beneath you. It's a little white box. Let me show you what it looks like, because we're sort of, if I start things up correctly, we might even be able to do this. But I'll show you what the screen is meant to look like, because we've got a button here which is supposed to bring up the live stream chat window. There we are. So we've got people tapping away in their live stream chat window. Wonderful. And all you have to do is give yourself a name and you can get tapping away in there. So let's bring that out of the way so we don't clutter things up. So we'll bring it down to the bottom of the screen. And yes, we've got some interesting stuff for you tonight. We've got a revelation that we've been talking about for a little while. We're going to bring some revelations out at Christmas time. So, they say the show is now playing. Great. Well, hopefully it's not too loud or anything like that. We've got a guest who's going to come on via Skype, and he's going to be with us for a large part of the evening, giving us his opinions about not just crop circles but UFOs. So let's see whether we can get this guest on the line. We've got to press this button here which brings his audio in, and let's see if we can hear Mr. Matt Lyons. Are you there?
Hello there, Matt.
You can hear us?
Okay?
I can hear you okay.
Indeed.
Let's see if
good.
I can bring you up on the screen here, because that's the whole idea of having this going. Right, okay, full screen. I have to press a button here. How do you do this bloody Skype thing? It's a nightmare, isn't it? It's like full screen. Full screen. There we go, full screen on that. Now, theoretically, he says, it's not doing it. Typical. Right, technical faults. Give me 2 seconds. Piece of software here has to be switched on. Typical. Anyway, I hope everybody is getting ready for their Christmas. And how are you getting ready for Christmas, Matt?
Presents wrapping all over the place, visiting relatives, baking cakes. My wife's just baked famous custom Christmas cakes for the year, with pastry glazed in vodka. Yum yum.
Right. Sounds good. I don't know why it's not allowing me to start the software which will bring this screen across. Oh, hang on, here we go. It's doing it. It's just being very slow. Come on, Mr. Screen. I thought I had this working, but there we are. Let's see whether we get you on the screen. This time, there you go. We've got you on the screen. So, not moving, by the way. Frozen. Oh, no. It's moving one sort of frame at a time. So we've got your picture, but it's not really moving around very much. Let me just see if we can press another button and get this working. Oh, God. It's really, really slow. Let me bring the screen size down a bit. What on earth is going on? Well, I can see you on my laptop moving fine on this screen. It's not coming through so well. Oh well, we've got the audio, so that's not a problem. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you do?
Well, from Kent, and lived here all my life, and really my interest in UFOs started actually at the age of 3 or 4, which is seems a bit too early, but I was completely taken in by that Jerry Anderson TV show UFO. Obviously, as a 4-year-old, you look at it in a completely different light, but as they continually re-show the TV show as I got older, you started seeing it, from a mature perspective. And of course, Close Encounters film in 1977, that really had an influence on drawing me in closer. But I think once I got through to my teens, early 20s, I started looking and thinking, well, there's a lot here when you look at all the science fiction films. There's a lot here that seems to be based on some level of truth. I wanted to find out what the truth about what people have really experienced have been. And gradually, you start filling up the bookshelf with more books, and you go for the more extreme ones, viewpoints such as Bud Hopkins and alien abductions, Whitley Strieber, and then also you want to start seeing the other side of the coin of the factual sightings and actual proper witness reports of what's actually happened to people, rather than the Hollywood renditions and stuff made good for television. And so It just went from there, really.
Right, okay. So we've got your title up on the screen. You're chairman of BUFORA. So what is BUFORA? Would you like to explain to us?
Well, it's a British UFO Research Association, and that started officially in 1962, and it was made of a lot of groups that came together. One of the leading groups that drew a lot of the member societies together started off in London, and it was called LeForo, and that started in 1959. And a lot of other national groups decided to network together, and so it got going at Kensington, the library hall. There was first meeting in '62, and it's gone through many organisation changes over the years, and basically now more of a society of individuals rather than a lot of the groups. Unfortunately, a lot of the groups aren't there anymore, but I think that's more to do with the fact that people communicating so much more quickly on the internet.
Yes.
And they're not needing to take a long train from somewhere like Nottingham to London in order to have a meeting. So it's changed dramatically, I think, more so in the last 10 years. There's no need for a huge mailing list and newsletters to be sent out to everybody, because, of course, it can all be read online, which is great in one way, because, of course, you can send information around more quickly. But the proliferation of stuff that is absolutely far away from the sighting reports has also grown in abundance, and so it's more of a tool, I think, for somebody that's interested in the subject to get to closer to the facts and the science of the subject, and proper witness reports and research, because, of course, science fiction, the crossovers are also in abundance now. So it's a bit of a minefield out there for somebody that just wants to look at the subject, with a level head.
Yes. Right. So how long have you been the chairman of BUFORA, and sort of did you start off as an investigator and then move your way up, or?
That's it. Started off as an investigator, and I got stuck into also another project, which was to bring the magazines up to date, because I started looking at trying to get back issues, and found that you'd look on eBay and places like that, and there'd only be a few issues, and sometimes you get the same ones coming up again and again. And I thought, well, this isn't good. I'd really like to get the background, and gradually pulled in a lot of the boxes that were around various people's houses, and managed to get them all digitized. So now we've actually got them on a CD, which you can now scan and search for sightings and reports and subject matter. And that took a lot of time to get it together, but it was worth it, because there's now 50 years of everything that was ever produced on one disc. and then gradually moved on to research coordinator, and then up to chairman. And it's basically, I just see my role there as making sure everybody's happy and everything's ticking over, and also making sure that people's research projects that they have with the media connect quite nicely, and making sure everybody's happy with all of their ongoing things, because sometimes you can get a project that can last 6 months looking into a certain feature or idea about the subject. Sometimes some of the projects never close, like the vehicle interference report, and so on. So they're all rolling over in a constant overlap.
Right, okay. Well, we've got the website address now coming up for BUFORA, so it's www.bufora.org.uk. So that's there for people to go and have a look at if they're interested. It is a society that sort of needs people, needs members, and does training for UFO investigations as well. Would you like to tell a little bit about what they can get involved in with the organisation?
Well, you don't actually need to, it's not compulsory to be on the investigation course. That's only if you want to directly meet with witnesses. But I mean, we're quite happy to look at people from all different areas of the UK, because obviously sometimes you find that there's 3 or 4 investigators in one county, and then the neighbouring county hasn't got anybody there. So it's always very, very useful, so you can get to a sighting, especially if somebody's been involved in, say, a report where there's been a vehicle breakdown, and maybe something like a strange light has been close by, and then all of the electronics just pack up and maybe start again. And of course, the first 24 to 48 hours in a vehicle interference case, for example, are very critical to see if you can actually test for any background radiation, and so on. So of course, if your nearest investigator is about 200 miles away, it makes it a little bit more difficult to get there quickly. So we're always on the lookout for investigators. But we've got other people that are involved with just the publicity and making sure people have got newsletter updates, and some people are organised on the website of things. So obviously there's plenty of cogs, to make an organisation like us work. So it's not always about necessary investigations first. You can get involved in many other ways.
Right. And sort of whereabouts are you calling in from today, by the way, in the country, just to give people a little idea of where you're from?
I'm from the county of Kent.
Oh, I think you said that, didn't you? Sorry.
That's it.
Oh, you're born in Kent, you said. Yes.
That's it, yeah. Still here.
Right. Okay, so have you got any interest in crop circles? I mean, or does the organisation have an interest in crop circles, and what would you like to...
Well, it's obviously the connection with the UFO and the crop circle enigma is a bit of a difficult one for us, because we generally believe in, we're the same ethos as yourself, which is believing that well over, closer to 100% than 95% of them are man-made, and the few of them that are out there that look as if they're not are far less complex patterns, and they're just they're not going to be elaborate shapes. But we find it very, very difficult to feel that UFOs are causing them by just the classic saucer shape appearing over them and producing all of these wonderful designs.
Yeah, sorry.
Carry on.
Has BUFORA always sort of thought this? Was there a time when BUFORA were actually investigating this, or was it a bit before your time?
It was before my time, but I know that Jenny Randalls and Paul Fuller, should I say, they did a couple of book series that gradually improved on one series onto another one, which tried to look into the anomalies and what might be causing them, and all sorts of things were thrown into the basket, perhaps, with ley lines, research into those and influences, electromagnetic influences that are causing, hotspots of, shapes. But I think it gradually moved towards the fact that there might be a very small proportion of them that might be caused by maybe electromagnetic influences, vapor, such as fog and mist, maybe working with electrical particles and charging them into shapes, and sometimes even perhaps earthlights, but still maybe putting them in the small 2%, perhaps 3 at best, of all the shapes that are out there. And we believe that there's a very high proportion of them that are man-made, and very beautiful they are, may I say. That's certainly not a criticism of them at all.
Yeah. We've got a bit of a
we love them.
Yes, we've got a bit of a dog invasion here. She's been a bit of a whiny one. So so for the fans of the dog, there she is. Yes, so sorry about that. Break away with something so trivial, but she does get on the show that way. So okay, I don't think there are many crop circles down your neck of the woods, though, are there, in Kent? There have been a few, but it's not a prolific area. There have been some in the past, but not quite so many in recent times.
There's been quite a few of them sort of turn up from time to time at Trosley, near the Cauldron Stones, which is the fields that build up towards the North Downs, about a few miles west of Maidstone, close to the village of Addington. There's been 1 or 2 of those over the years, but we're still waiting for another one to appear with a new design. Haven't seen anything so far, but there was a Kent crop circle research side, but it seems to be a little bit quiet at the moment.
Right. Okay, well, let's just have a little look, see how many people we've got in the chat channel. We always like to have a look. We've got 14 users. We've got Adverbassa. I don't know quite how you pronounce that, but we've got Dave D, Glickers Knickers, Gonads, J, Monad, Plan 9, Roger W, Ron in XYZ, or Ron in XYZ, Sonia again, with a capital letter at the beginning, The Lamp, The Demon Bunny, and Tristan. So that might be the Tristan we're thinking of. But yeah, so coming back to UFOs and things like that then, have you ever had any sightings of anything like that yourself?
Well, I mean, when you train up to investigate reports and sightings, very often you'll find that, and I think I can speak for many BUFORA investigators over the last 20, 30, 40 years even, that you may investigate witness reports, but if it's not a surprise to find that as an investigator, you may not have seen one person yourself. But I was quite happy to have been investigating another 20 years into the future and not come across anything, but actually had a quite an enormous object turn up on a photograph of all places, of Rendlesham Forest, right over the field, where on the second night in that 1980 famous UFO event, documented very, very well, we caught a blip on the film, and we blew it up to size, and it's insect or bird, and we even checked the camera, and it still remains quite anomalous because it's quite a classic dark disc shape, and there's a bit of distortion on the top of it when you blow the shot up. So and it was 3 hours before the UFO conference. I was speaking there that evening, and I thought, oh, well, I'll keep that one quiet until we've had a chance to have a proper look at it and downloaded it at home, and we really couldn't come to any conclusion on that one, so it's staying as a UFO. So there we go. But I would have been quite happy to have been, quite content to investigate lots of people's sightings and reports, close encounter one right up to the highest category. I never actually seen one myself personally,
Right.
But there we are, and then that happened.
Yes. Yeah, so have you got the photo handy? I don't know. Well, we should have downloaded it, but we didn't. So you haven't.
Well, if you go onto the website, if you go onto click on the articles.
In BUFORA's website, yes?
That's it, and go to 2011 articles.
Okay.
And it'll open up, and you'll be able to see the picture of myself.
Right, let me see whether I can get this then. So keep speaking whilst I'm doing it. You can
no problem.
Fill the space.
No problem. And yeah, scroll down. You should be able to see on the articles section a picture of myself just walking around doing the UFO trail just before it started. Then I made my way to the East Gate, and then you've got the picture of the third of 4 pictures is one over the field, normal size, and then we did an enlarged shot of the UFO. And if anybody else has any thoughts on that, we're more than happy to
right. I can
take
see
them. Yeah.
See the sort of gate. And where do I go from there? Sorry.
That's it. Just keep scrolling down. There'll be a third picture with
There's
a
only
field.
one picture on this page. Does it say read more? Is it? Sorry.
That's it. Read more. Then it'll that'll let it roll down further.
Okay, I've just got a screen. No, it says review of flying saucer technology by Bill Rose. I'll go back to 2011 articles. There's only one picture I can see here.
It either automatically opens up after a few seconds, or you can click on the read more. It might be a highlighted, and that pushes down the rest of the page.
Okay. Can't see a read more for you. I was clicking on a read more and the article in the next and underneath. Sorry. Right. Okay. Let's have a look.
That should roll out.
Seeing as you've got something to show us, we might as well have a look, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's very slow. Skype has just made this laptop go to sleep. Unfortunately.
It's very hungry. Unfortunately, Skype, isn't it?
Oh yes. Yeah.
On the resources.
Scroll this down. Okay, let's see whether we can see something now. I might have to put this desktop thingy onto full screen. Full screen. Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look at your picture then. Right. So what are we seeing here then? Can you talk us through what we're actually looking at? I've got an arrow pointing at this dot.
That's it. Well, that's over the field. That's over the field of the second night sighting, and we just. I was out with my mother and said, "Would you like to come along and have a look at the forest anyway? You know, and have a nice stroll." And we got to that point, and I just said, "Quick, look over there. There's something a bit odd." I said, "I think it's a microlight, but can you take a shot just to be sure?" And then she just happened to be taking pictures anyway of the trail. We were alternating cameras between the two of us. And she just happened to have her hand up in the air, ready to take a shot, just at the right moment. And after 5 seconds, the blip disappeared, just into nothing. And we patiently waited and scanned with our eyes, back and forth the field. I looked to the right and she looked to the left. And I looked out towards the Orford Nest Lighthouse, which is pretty tricky to sort of see, especially on a misty day from there. And nothing. So we hung around for about 10 minutes, and I said, well, it could have been microlight or something, some model plane or something being flown. But I had a look around the area, and there wasn't anything. The airstrip right next to the perimeter of the airbase. It was just absolutely quiet, very, very sleepy day there, nothing going on whatsoever. So we remain, sort of open-minded on that one. But I passed it around the team, and there's a possibility that we're putting in recent years is there's quite a lot of stealth technology we think that has developed to the next level, which is to actually change colour and according to the environment. So a camera mounted on the maybe unmanned aerial vehicle is able to sense the background it's against or the hue of the sky colour and blend into it.
Yes, I think British Aerospace have got technology like that now for sort of masking themselves to infrared cameras so that they can make a tank look like a car and things like that.
So I mean, it's got to be going up into the air as well. We'd be very, very surprised if there weren't more sightings start to come in. Whereby I saw this triangle, which might be one of the unmanned stealth, mini stealths or drones of a triangle or Dorito sort of shape, and then it disappear after a few seconds. And if we, hear or to see any more photos come in like that, it wouldn't surprise me if there's more of those on the uptake in the air.
Right. So quite an interesting one. So yeah, we've come back to your face now, so we can see you on the screen. Let's bring this back up. There we go. Right. So, you've been down to Wiltshire looking at crop circles. What's the gen then from your perspective? I mean, you've spoken to me, but did you start off a little bit more sort of interested, or have you always been a little bit sceptical towards crop circles?
I think really, personally speaking here, I must state that whatever we think of how they're made, just at face value, what they are absolutely, beautiful things in terms of the vast variety of shapes that come out, geometry and surprising ones, all of the different ones that you've catalogued, for example, that over the years that have been formed. And I know that a high proportion of them, at the very very least, that's my personal belief, are obviously made with paddles out in the fields, and I
They're
absolutely
called
love them.
stomper boards, paddles.
Oh, stomper boards. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Apologies to the die-hard croppies out there. So stomper boards, right? I stand corrected.
Yes.
But absolutely love all the designs that are coming out. I think it's a bit frustrating when you know that somebody should get recognition for their designs, that especially as you know, some of the people that make a certain particular style out there can't get the recognition, but you see a lot of people making a fortune from all of the calendars out there, and it's not them, they're just profiteering from the photographs of them. But it's that difficult situation, isn't it, between remaining anonymous for obvious reasons, but also knowing full well that these pictures are shooting, all over the world on the internet, and also people are making a lot of money out of them, and it can't come back that way, to
Yes.
them.
Indeed, yes. So, have you been out for many years in Wiltshire? Have you seen much stuff, or is it a recent thing for you?
It's a fairly recent thing for me. I mean, I started reading the crop circles pamphlet, and I saw the odd one or two one or two of them in the local and national press. But I had to really sort of wait until I started seeing a lot more of these before I started wanting to form my own opinions of them.
Right.
So accumulated and start seeing the patterns over 5 years when I really started waking up. So it's been in the last 3 or 4 years really I've been watching them more closely as a phenomena.
Right.
So I've branched out, from the mainstream UFO into this.
So, do you still get people contacting BUFORA then, asking about crop circles, believing that they, have had sightings or strange things happen to them?
Actually, surprisingly, very, very few sightings actually come in on crop circles. We've had the odd one or two reports that have come in from people thinking they've got a landing site with, and it's turned out to actually be, the mushroom rings,
right,
in fields, where what they call the fairy rings. And they've seen a light such as Venus, looking a bit strange, or a moon dog, a shadow of the moon, basically a ghost image of the moon up in the cloud and vapours, and then have looked at the ground surrounding the area where they've seen something a bit unusual in the sky, and put two and two together where it shouldn't have been put together. It's their belief system driving, the fact that they've seen something in the sky, and then they've seen this other completely independent thing on the ground. And then they've submitted, the reports as such, and then we've told them, it's actually, fungus rings and mushroom rings that have caused the circles. So we've had those, but actually very, very few reports on people connected with circles, or thinking they've seen an anomalous object, and then they've tagged it together with saying they've seen it above a circle.
Right. Are you aware of sort of my talk I gave for BUFORA a few years ago, where I actually spoke at the Quakers meeting rooms? I don't think you were there for that, but
I wasn't there for that one. Please enlighten me on that one, because in fact we're getting some of the videos back digitised.
oh right,
with that, so I'm going to be catching up with you on that one. But
Oh, right,
yeah,
great.
pray tell. Yeah.
Well, it was an interesting night because I almost didn't get to speak if somebody'd had their way, but I don't think they were very intelligent about the way they looked at this, because it was in the Quakers meeting rooms in London, central London, and a person by the name of Francine Blake, a crop circle researcher, thought she would ring them up and say, that I shouldn't be allowed to speak there. And they said, well, why is that? And they said, well, because he's a terrible man and a criminal and he shouldn't be allowed to speak. And they said, well, you do realise who we are? And she said, well, the Quakers. He said, yes, that's right. And do you know what our basic fundamental tenet is? No censorship. So she was ringing up the Quakers to ask them to censor somebody's talk, and they're an organisation based against anti-censorship. So she's very, very clever woman there, very worldly. But that was a talk I gave for BUFORA. That was an interesting one. It was just after I had my arrest for crop circles, so people were just asking me a little bit about what was going on. And I believe you had Michael Glickman speaking for BUFORA as well. What do you know about Michael then?
I don't know much about his talk at all, but I'm going to look into that now you've mentioned it. But again, I have to admit I've seen the footage of that that scene that you showed me at was it the Glastonbury Town Hall?
That's right, yes.
With the Doug and Dave. Now I mean, harmless gentlemen those two guys are, and I've seen the Circlemakers DVD, which if anybody else hasn't, I thoroughly recommend it. BUFORA rubber stamp on that. Get one because it was a fascinating documentary on all of the different shapes and the fact that they were very, very laid back in their approach. They weren't trying to sort of push a belief on anybody. They just liked the shapes that they were creating. I think they were quite alarmed, weren't they, really, about all of the different belief systems that were flooding in on that they thought, well, it just really is a shape, and what it meant to people, but they were quite happy, with each to their own in what you want from it. But I think really I'm getting, rather concerned myself by the fact that there are a lot of people out on the circuit that are going so far into trying to create a false world for all of this, the spiritual world of it, which is going far beyond just seeking a bit of peace around the circle area and making whole belief systems out of it. That's very, very worrying, because it's happening in the same way that it's already happened to ufology in terms of pandering to the media side of things. It's almost science fiction, really, isn't it? Trying to push it and turn it into fact. That's
and an industry as well. Yes, yeah, makes some people some money, doesn't it?
Indeed, yeah. And really, I find that rather sad that that's happening. I think it's trying to bring in all of the things like planes, the Nazca planes, and perhaps mythology around Stonehenge, set circle stone shapes that have obviously gone back millennia, and trying to push that mystique onto them, and which it's just totally out of place. Well, I mean, the thing I love about crop circles is, there's hardly any real disturbance to the landscape. You get fantastic shapes form, and out of nowhere, so like nice little surprises, when the sun rises. And I know that there's a little bit of damage, but it's a superficial surface area, really, in most cases. And I like the fact that so many different designs come out from that. I think a lot of the ones that are the unusual phenomena that cause natural, far less elaborate shapes, just simple circles and tornado shapes, aftermaths of mini tornadoes, all that sort of thing. That's my thoughts on it, anyway.
Yeah, we do get these sightings of strange things that are reported over crop circles, which is kind of peculiar, because the initial reaction people would have is, well, if they're made by people, well, there shouldn't be anything going on. But it appears that there are these sightings of unknown objects and people having strange experiences in man-made circles. And I do hold myself the belief that people actually get their inspiration to go out and do these things from somewhere else, something else, which you probably experienced on the videos you've watched of mine. But I mean, how do you think that works then? Would you have any explanations as to why people might see things, more around crop circles?
It could be perhaps spiritual calling, and of course, that is an unseen thing with just how people believing, how they're in sense with the universe, but no more differently than perhaps some people get a buzz from being on a crossing of key ley lines.
Right.
I think it's each their own. There's a lot of electric magnetic energies are natural and have got very positive feelings that they can give people. I think in modern age we focus so heavily on things like the negative energies, such as mobile phone masts, and being aware of radiation counts from those, and how much what you'd call electric pollution. But there's a lot of
Yes.
I think very, very fine pure electric magnetic lines that are in the earth that can actually cause maybe a few of these crop circles to come into being, but also people to be drawn to want to be close to them, or be in the area, or even then go on to actually sort of make one or two themselves. I think there are also a lot of anomalies that are out there, which are caused perhaps by a generation of the Earthlights, but not of one that's actually you can actually see with the naked eye. But many of the Earthlights that Paul Devereaux has looked into, which are releases of piezoelectric reactions with the quartz in the ground, which don't necessarily have to be caused by earthquakes to appear. And there's plenty. I mean, there's plenty. Abundance on YouTube of these Earthlights appearing just before and after earthquakes. And also there are a lot of natural gases that can come up from the ground, which are maybe not visible to the naked eye, or very, very weak in luminescence, which can come and go. I mean, we had some Earthlights which were quite weak, but that's often called will-o'-the-wisps, just down the road from me in Sussex, but they packed up in the 1920s and haven't been seen since, but they were documented locally, and they were very, very, you can almost not see them, so it's not always necessarily a bright light. And I just wonder, in the same way that this electric magnetism can have an effect, and red mists that descend around cars during suspected UFO sighting reports, well, those natural anomalies must also be able to have an effect on a field. So I do feel that there are some anomalies there that are naturally occurring that don't have to be necessarily frightening or distressing an experience, such as missing time or blacking out for a period of time, but actually may have a very calming or spiritual side of, to the effect. It's not all negative.
Right. Yes, it's important that people get something positive out of these circles. I suppose they wouldn't be coming back if they thought they were demonic, but that's why a lot of people are interested in it, isn't it, for the spiritual angle? But sort of these strange things which are photographed as well. One would wonder, sort of how that would manage to come about. I mean, do you think there's anything which could be beyond sort of unknown physics then? Because a lot of that stuff with the gas plasmas and things like that, I mean, it's known about, but I mean, do you sort of delve in BUFORA into looking at things that could be beyond sort of like normal known physics? Do you sort of speculate about the possibility of there being actual aliens and things like that in the organization?
Well, there's always this possibility. I mean, just look on the news recently with the discovering of yet more Earth-like exoplanets, which are in what they call the Goldilocks zone. That's not too hot or too cold to support life. they've discovered a couple recently. I think only just this week or last week. That's certainly been in the news for being in exactly the perfect area where the Earth would be relative to the mass of the Sun. Now, look at the size of the galaxy. Now, if I believe that maybe we have been visited before. Maybe we haven't got a recent visit going on now. But I certainly think we've been passed by and are due to be passed by, especially now we're pumping out a lot more radio information about ourselves being here as a sentient species that's able to send messages out, whether intentionally. All these transmissions from the radio are going out, well beyond the solar system. We've got Pioneer, haven't we? The Pioneer and the Voyager craft. They're now going into the outer heliosphere, well beyond the sun's heat and light and warmth, into genuine outer space. And so there are all these messages going out there, and I think that you can apply the Drake equation, which is the formula, and say, well, there's a certain amount of planets out there, but I personally think it's a little bit higher than we previously thought. Now we're actually discovering all these planets. With specifically towards crop circles, I think that there are a lot of strange sites that have been caught on YouTube that we know aren't fakes. Some odd lights that have been picked up in proximity, and sometimes orbs and so on, which are sometimes quite solid or sometimes quite fudged, and of various captures. But I bring you towards a project such as Project Hestalen
in Norway.
In Norway, where you've got these Earth lights that are appearing all over the place.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, well, you've got these. Are these from another dimension? Because they seem to be defying all the laws of physics and so on, and how they appear. And I think even the Rendlesham Forest incident, there could be something in there, that the reason that they had to cover up a lot of the fear about what was happening around the base was because it defied all explanation. And it may not have been military, but if you actually look at reports of strange things happening to planes and aircraft around that incident, and look at my sighting, for example, that just turned up, there are strange things that are going on in that area. And I just wonder whether if we actually had a fixed camera around that forest area and left that switched on with various vantage points, what strange things we would see then. So with a crop circle, if it can interfere with a car electrical system, we can get a UFO report. It's going to be so easy for something to be able to affect perhaps other objects. So I do believe that there are some anomalous events, around crop circles, but they're in the same sort of proportion of UFO sightings that we know that are objects that can be readily explained, in the same way that circles that we know are man-made. There's that small proportion that you think, oh, hello,
Yes,
that have got a mystery to them.
Somebody in channel is asking, are there any developments with that project, the Hestalen project in Norway, that you know of?
Well, the project actually is collating data all the time, and it's not really gone to sleep. They've got the camera still fixed there. And if you actually log on to the project, Google it in, it's very easy to get to. The amounts of images, and as the image capture technology is getting better, you're getting ever more elaborate shots of sometimes rows of these 7 or 8 lights are all in a band, and sometimes they all repel towards one another and move at different rates all over the place, all going at different speeds. And sometimes they can be there for minutes or sometimes seconds. And I think there's a lot of beautiful things in nature that we have yet to explain, and that's definitely one of them. And I wouldn't say directly linked to some of the images over crop circles, not to be taken literally, but there are anomalies out there that definitely are appearing, maybe as a direct result of also perhaps being around the circles as well.
Somebody was saying as well, what about strange noises? So they're sort of saying not just strange visible things, but strange noises. I mean, would you consider you know, unidentified flying objects are sort of considered to be, well, I suppose they don't have to be in the visible or the spectrum because you can touch them. So I suppose, you know, BUFORA, are they interested in strange noises at BUFORA?
Well, as a musician myself, I'm absolutely fascinated by all of that.
He says strange noises. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because of all the different frequency ranges that just are about outside or just within, you know, human hearing, that are around us all the time, and effects such as harmonics, whereby sounds can just sort of literally change because of their position towards you and coming towards you. Not just the obvious jet passing your fire engine, you know, with the Doppler effect of it going slightly flat in tune as it gets further away from you. But there are a lot of noises that sometimes you see in the local papers, sometimes a noise that won't go away. And, you know, the local reporters sent out to see if they can find any links to things such as substations.
Like but the hums, they call them, isn't it? The hums.
That's it, the hums. But again, yes, that's another anomaly whereby you can definitely put a big question mark on that one, because it seems to be that there's a high proportion of UFO reports, for example, that they very rarely get reported with noise. But I'd be fascinated to see how sound would be around crop circles that have been formed that are considered to not be man-made. And if anybody's got any data on ones that they've feel that have just appeared, and then noises that just refuse to go away or oscillate or go up and down.
I think Wraithy is saying in channel that he's watching something, and I think he's referring to Hestelin on something called You Are the Cast, which is spelled U for uniform, R for Romeo, sort of, then and then cast.com. And there's something there which is to do with Hestelin, I think. So have you heard about that? A live stream sort of coming from that area?
I haven't heard of the live stream there. I mean, I think all I've got is the ones where they've actually had the detection set up for anything out of the ordinary, you know, when, at night time. In particular, when obviously the cameras are triggered to suddenly start capturing anything that starts appearing out of the ordinary. They've got an auto sort of detect that will, once enough, there's enough excitement on the screen, you know, the camera lens, should I say, they'll automatically cycle up to capture it. But thanks for that. I'll look into that one, because sometimes, you know, it's worth having a look at those.
Yeah, so You Are the Cast.com, letter U, letter R, thecast.com. Anyway, Sonia in channel is saying, Mr. Lyons, very formal, do you think that something non-human makes the circles then? And if so, for what reason?
Non-human, I find that pretty difficult just to really believe in personally. But I've got an open mind here, because I mean, with the BUFORA stance, we're not so skeptical that we're trying to go out and debunk everything, because obviously we are science driven. We're trying to find out the reason why things are working, and if we can actually get better at detecting and being at the right place at the right time to get more tangible evidence of catching, you know, a UFO or a circle in, you know, in formation. Neither are we at the other end of the spectrum, which is already totally believing in an alien present by default, because you can imagine what that would do with witness investigations. If somebody saw something like a sky lantern, if somebody's incredibly heavily driven by they're already here and amongst us, they're more liable to influence that report and turn around and say, well, oh, it's probably an alien mothership. But also, you know, on the skeptic side of it, if it's an ultra skeptic that doesn't believe in anything unusual comes across, you know, a video with something like a strange object over a crop circle, or a vehicle interference report where the electrical damage is there, they're just going to turn around and say, oh, well, you know, check your wiring. Well, you know, say if the family say, well, hang on a minute, I had the car serviced last week. It's done about, you know, 50 miles since then. We've never had a problem with it before. That sort of person that's saying, oh, it's all a load of rubbish, you know.
Yes.
they're going to miss out on some, very interesting data there. That person then won't go out and maybe take a radiation reading. But it's probably, we're on the skeptic side, but what I call a healthy skeptic side, where it's not closed mind, but it's also not so pro-extraterrestrial that, the other dangerous end of the spectrum, which will be, and you can see an abundance of it on the internet, where people are already believing as a default position to the expense of everything else. So we're sort of nicely, I think, in that middle niche, which doesn't make us, maybe the greatest guest, for TV sometimes, because we're not going to give them the classic image of the UFO nut,
Yeah.
with a high visibility vest and sort of pebble glasses, going, "Oh, they're here amongst us," as it gets stereotyped, on TV.
Well, the glasses
Nor
are
are
sort
we.
of halfway there, mate. But
Oh well, yeah. I'm working on. Well, the eyesight's got to deteriorate, but available in optional, not with.
right.
There you go.
Here we are. Anyway, what's wrong with people wearing glasses? Why are people with glasses always the science types? That's what I want to know. Are there any good-looking, sort of like young nubile scientists out there? Why all the geeky people have always got to be the scientists? I don't know. Anyway, I
It was
think
downhill from Brains from Thunderbirds, wasn't it?
Mm,
Really.
yeah. I think I got it wrong with the UR cast, by the way. When I was sent that link, I've just checked it out now, and it's actually an orbiting satellite, which is going to allow people to. It's not an orbiting satellite. I think it's actually on the space shuttle. They've got two cameras which are going to be looking down at Earth, and you'll be able to see live video, like close-up spy satellite stuff, live video. And what it does, because I've seen it, I've actually looked into this before, you can type in your location and it will tell you the next time and date, a window when it's actually going to pass your area. So what you do is you say, right, well, I'll be outside my house waving in the sky, and then when the satellite, well, the space shuttle comes over and actually films you, you can watch yourself on the net film from space. Heard about
Is
that?
absolutely amazing.
And that's good.
Yeah, thanks for that.
That's 24/7. That thing will be running, so you can sort of look at all sorts of places all over the Earth. And I'm sure that means that Area 51 will have certain times when it doesn't want to have things out on display. But we shall see, because I'm sure they'll make some mistakes.
Yes, don't forget to put in the washing, Deirdre. Yes, with that particular site. Yeah, I'll imagine. But with all of the sightings that we get, we actually we come take them all on their merit. And I think the one thing that sets us aside from quite a lot of groups is the fact that we actually make sure it's actually led by the witness, even though we know that they may have some belief systems. Obviously, if you've got somebody that is that's been watching nothing but science fiction horror movies for the last 30 years, they're more possibly liable to lean towards, if they've seen something strange, to maybe join the dots in that direction. If you've got somebody that, we've also got some people that say, "Oh, I don't believe any of that stuff," but you can actually tell that they're actually a bit freaked out and frightened. I'll give you a classic example. We had a report come in last year from a lady that worked in a bar in the evenings, and she came home and she was just having a cigarette outside her back garden, and this bright light came across, and brightest thing she said in the sky, she said, "Definitely not a star." And the whole family were pulling her leg, going, "Oh, yeah, little green man, beam me out, Scotty," and all
What was
those,
in your cigarette?
That's it, yeah, the usual thing. Oh, that's very nice. That's not 20 Rothmans, is it? And all of that, yeah, all the digs. And she said, "I'm really worried." And you get a witness like that, they phone us up and say, "I'm really concerned here, because I don't want you to think that I'm nuts or anything like that, but I really did see something odd." And I did a little bit of looking at sort of the astro software for what was in the sky that night. And I said, "Well, hang on a minute. So this was about 9:15, was it?" And she said, "Yeah." And of course, I can't prove it anymore, because of the likelihood of me seeing it again. And then I thought, well, hang on a minute. I said, "You've actually seen the International Space Station," and at that time they put the new solar panels on it. And I said, so they're taking the mickey out of you, are they, and doing all the beat beat little green men noises? She said, yes. And I said, right, okay, do you fancy a little bit of payback here? And she said, what do you suggest? And I said, well, I'm going to give you and project you all of the International Space Station times forward for the next 3 days. And what you can do is have a nice little sweepstake at the pub to say that you're going to predict that a UFO is going to appear at such and such a time. And so she selected her time, and all the bets went into the hat saying, yeah, wind up. She said, I can make this really bright object reappear. You know, she was careful with the words, you know, she knew what it was. And she won the bet, and she was very, very, well, rich, you know, week's worth of wages there were won, I think, in the end. And so payback, haha, you know.
Yeah.
So it was nice to be able to actually, you know, give her a bit of credibility there. But, you know, a lot of people are very nervous, you know, about picking up the phone to us, and we put them at ease and remind us of our witness confidentiality. You know, it won't go to the press or anything like that. In the same way, you know, if anybody phoned in, you know, with an anomalous object over a crop circle, it doesn't go any further. And that's if we do publish any data, all names and addresses are completely wiped out. Yet nobody's got a clue exactly where the person's come from. It might be, you know, Mr. A. Smith from, you know, Wiltshire or something. So witness confidentiality, you know, is one of our big things.
Yeah,
and
I was going to say that BUFORA, your one-stop shop for insider dodgy gambling information, but there we are.
Insider dodgy gambling.
Well, you know, the UFOs. We could tell you, you know, go and get them in the pub. You get some money out of them.
Oh no! What have I done here, Matt? What have I done?
Yeah, dear.
Oh no! I'm going to see a new Ladbrokes betting syndicate next week, aren't I?
Yeah.
Damn.
Sonia's asking. I think I've asked that one actually about the humans. Why do they do that? God, sorry. They're asking who you are. They say the chairman of BUFORA. Where was the question? Sorry, it was just. Can he comment on the web-like material found in crop circles over the years? Have you ever seen anything about that? Heard anything about web-like material?
I actually haven't, no. I haven't at all. The closest I've got to that is sometimes angel hair, which has been quite, as you probably know, Matt, is quite a big thing with some UFO reportings, whereby there's a web of unexplained... It looks like a cobweb material, but it's far more wispy and almost too finite for it to be a spider. But the problem is, as soon as you get close to getting hold of any of that for lab analysis, it's so frail and so delicate and so short-lived, you can never get your hands on it, you know, quick enough to get it back to a lab. To organise it. Well, I think we've had it also with some jellies. There was a case, I think, about 3 years ago with some jelly substances that were appearing randomly all over the place and not connected with fungus on trees. They were on, you know, I think the ground. And they were just literally, imagine a clear translucent jelly substance that's just on the ground. And... not connected with, you know, any fungi you would normally associate with a tree, you know, where you get the hard mushroom sort of shaped fungus. And you sometimes get the resin and the sap residues coming from the tree, not connected, not anywhere close to a tree. But of course, you know, when we've been alerted about that, by the time we've got close enough to get hold of it for a lab analysis, it's already dissipated and gone, which is, you know, quite frustrating. But yes, I'd love it if somebody was able to get their hands on some of that and get it into a laboratory jar and get it whisked off.
Yes,
I mean, I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Firefox. We've got another window coming up here. Just see if I can get this on screen. It's not easy doing this multiple screen thingy. But I've got some angel hair examples here. This is on crop, in fact. Let's see if it will work. It's just... I can never see... I've got about 200 buttons here, and I can never find the one that I need to do it. Hang on, foreground. Let's do it with this one. No, it's not easily going to do it. Oh, hang on, this will do it. There we are. What was that beep beep sound then? Is that your end?
That was my end, yeah. A little bit of traffic.
All right. Oops. Okay. And this being Windows 7, every time you go near the edge of a screen, it makes it full screen, which you don't want it to do, but it decided it was going to do it for you anyway, because that's what you need, sir, isn't it? Right, angel hair. We've got this thing. Oh, what's this? Something to do with... Mistook a huge spider web for a weird localized ground frost. Okay, well, that's not anything. I've seen these sorts of things before, ground type webs, but not. I couldn't find any pictures of angel hair per se, but no doubt they are out on the net. If anybody has any links they want us to have a look at, but now he presses buttons and it doesn't change image. There we are, so we can't get the image back. There we go. Oh, there we are, right. Oh, there literally are, there's about 200 buttons you can press. So, okay, where do you sort of see the crop circle subject then relevance with the sort of mythos of UFOs and what people are thinking about it? Because a lot of people still want to believe, don't they? And people are very resistant to the idea that these things are made by humans. They want to believe it's extraterrestrials. What do you kind of think about the way ufology and mystery works in society? How does it come about that people don't want rational explanations? Have you got anything on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think my heart sunk on my foot when it had been out a while, but I got out on DVD the film Signs, and I went, oh no, here we go, because obviously that was just so far way out, and obviously Hollywood taken notice. Interesting though, they took enough notice to actually throw the weight and millions behind a film. They thought the phenomena was, worthy. But once again, I think, that film like Signs was its version of Close Encounters, benevolent, aliens in that case. But in this case, it turned around and they actually became very unfriendly at the end, and, the battle against all odds and wills. So obviously that gets re-shown, but there are many sort of derivatives off of that side where the science fiction is there. And excuse me, I think with the UFO, we've had so many science fiction films out there, and I think through no fault of anybody's own, obviously the layperson that's looking into looking at the crop circle calendar that they bought, and perhaps they were drawn initially to it, because they like the designs on there, and perhaps they start doing a bit of googling, and the hits that come up are always linked in with the alien and the UFO phenomena, which I think is very, very frustrating when that quite a lot of these circles have been beautifully man-made,
Yes.
and are artwork. They are artwork in the field there. And also, I find that society treats them, far too harshly. It seems okay and cool for you to find or see a Banksy happening or springing up somewhere, but there's far more grumbles about a crop circle springing up, and yet after a couple of days, a lot of the corn recovers and works its way back up,
Yes.
and everything dissolves back into the landscape. It doesn't really harm anybody. Okay, there's a few stems broken, but I think that there's been a lot of unnecessary, demonisation, which has been very, very unfair from the media of the circle makers out there. When you look at somebody that's spray can and painting tube trains and doing the underground and lots of other buildings, which cause an awful lot more damage,
Yes,
but it seems to have that little bit more of a cool edge to it, because it's on the streets and it's linked up with a lot of rap music and everybody having their signature,
Right.
So judge thee not, I think, if you put it into that context. I think, with the UFO problem, we've got an awful lot of stuff out there that is because of the abundance of internet message boards, and also there's a lot of paranoid conspiracy theories out there, whereby it's so easy to get sucked in to everybody, the men in black under your bed, basically, and everywhere around you. That I think a lot of people get drawn in so easily because it's more of a tantalising story. We get these phone calls all the time, but that doesn't make me either skeptic nor believer. I just think that a site like yourself, and hopefully what we do as well, is actually putting a far more balanced and evaluative edge onto this phenomena that's going out there, with the circles and UFOs, to make sure that the belief systems and the pseudoscience and the science fiction isn't allowed to completely flood over and wash into the media. But of course, I know you've had a lot of stick from not wanting to play ball with the people that want to make the illusionists that are on the lecture circuit, that want everybody to believe that they're all totally spiritual or alien orientated.
Yeah. But right, okay, we've got some pictures here which somebody sent a link in. That stuff we were looking at a minute ago, which was the angel hair. Somebody sent some links in now, which is showing a crystalline residue at the centre of the West Kennet crop circle. It says 2011. I'm not sure which circle they're on about. Let's see if we can find out. It isn't a ringed crop circle in the vicinity of West Kennet Long Barrow. Okay, so anyway, they're showing they've actually had electron microscope photographs taken of this substance, and it looks quite interesting. It looks very fine. It's a very fine sort of thing, which says like shells, and they look like they're crystals, but up close apparently they look like little shells. So quite interesting stuff. So that link was in the channel if people have got that. Don't quite know what it all means, but certainly makes for interesting viewing, even when you don't know what you're looking at.
Well, that's a step in the right direction if somebody's managed to get in there and get a good analysis of that, because that's excuse me. Sorry about that. Winter is upon us.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what are we looking at here. We could be just looking at plant material, but what's this? Is this a... Oh, they said, next the web of an ermine caterpillar. Oh, I see. So that sort of thing is a caterpillar's web. I would have put that down to being a spider, but now I know better. But there we are. And then that must be close-ups of this spider's web. So they've gone into good detail here on that. It says samples were taken of the soil from the West Kennet site, literally scratching the surface. It contained tiny iron spherules. We've decided to do further analysis on it this month, and this is from a site called Harmony Blues Blue Sky, harmonybluesky.wordpress.com, and it's strange material found in the crop circle. So if you want to go and have a look for that, you can. All right.
I definitely will. That's fascinating.
There we are. So
thanks for that link.
That's okay. Well, we've now got a little break from the chat, so we're going to sort of disappear off and show some footage to sort of break up the show. This is something that I've been promising we would try and get round to tonight, and it's been waiting in the wings for a while, but I thought, well, why not do it as a Christmas special? This is a piece of footage taken of a crop circle being made. So it's basically one that I think you'll recognise straight away once I start the footage, but it was shaved out, unfortunately, very soon after it was put into the field. So it's a bit of a sad one because it didn't stay there very long, but certainly long enough for some people to make statements about how good it was. So what we'll do is we'll show you the footage first, and it does run for a couple of minutes, and then we'll basically have a chat about it whilst the footage is on. So if you need to go for a quick break, comfort break, we'll probably be about 5 minutes at least with this, so we'll catch you back in a minute, Matt. So this is the footage.
Yes.
What I'll do is I'll put your audio on mute so that we don't accidentally catch you, but there we go. So I think you can pretty much see what it is now. And this is night vision footage which was shot, and you can see the circles being created on the left hand side, and as the circle starts to take shape, you're getting the rings are being made first, and you can see the circle makers actually going from ring to ring and actually starting to fill it, but then leaving the circles behind, and some are filled, some are not. That one's being filled completely in. You can see the circle maker going around. I bet they'll be quiet in channel whilst they're watching this one. And then you can see a laser or a light being used. Then there was sort of flashes going on, and but this has been sped up, I should say, 6,000 times. Basically, I was allowed to film this. The circle makers told me where they were going to be, and the reason I didn't get started, it should be said, at filming this when the camera first comes on and they've already started a certain way, is because I didn't know where they were exactly, and I was told to be on a certain hillside, and I didn't know where in the fields, and it took me a while to kind of work out where this was actually starting. And then I trained the cameras on that area and then filmed for the next 5 hours. So you can see in the lower right hand corner the actual hour and minute counter, that if you were watching it real time, that's what you would have seen. So that's me adjusting the camera so that you can see more of the circle. Now they're up in the upper right hand half of this circle now, and you probably can tell it's the Inkpen Serpent. Some people called it Walbury Hill, I think. And there's me retraining the camera again, adjusting it, not sure what's going to look good and bad, and there's going out of focus. And then now you can see the formation is mostly done, but they're up in the upper left hand corner now doing one of the large circles that makes up the tail, which you can see on the lower left photograph how that works out, and they're actually filling it in. You can see them filling it now. And they're filling it, going around the top, around the right hand side, going around the bottom hand bit, back up on the left hand side at the top, and now it's going to get faster and faster as the circle gets smaller and smaller as they fill it in. So it's a little bit hard to see. Now, because I know that you're going to go, oh my god, this is really bad, we can't see anything on live stream, and you might be having problems looking at this footage, what I'm going to do is, it's already uploaded onto YouTube, so tonight I have to actually put this on YouTube as now listed, so you'll be able to see it. Now that's the head, they're doing the head there. That's me adjusting the camera. They've already sort of completed nearly most of the head there. You can see the circle makers walking around, and they've started lining the outline of the circles on the left hand side. But if you watch carefully, they're finishing off doing the outlining. There they are, they finished the outline now on the inner bit, and they'll start very shortly, I believe, to actually fill in the outline on the outside left edge. So if you watch on the left hand side, you'll see them sort of scoot very quickly along and create the outline on the left hand side. So they're in that lower circle, moving back and forth at the moment, doing something, doing some detail work, and I think it's not going to be too long, but I think it's about 158 or something like that, and then they scoot up to the left hand side. There we go, there they go, there they go, there they go, and you can see them putting the outline in. They're going around the edge and they're going all the way up to the top. Look how quick they're going. Zipping along there. So, well, there's about 5 minutes worth of footage for you of 5 hours. So it's repeating itself now. But yeah, basically some footage of a crop circle being made. You don't get to see this very often. People complain and they say, "Where will you say you make these circles? But we've never seen the stuff. You know, we've never seen the footage of them actually being made, a real circle being made." And it's like, well, you don't get much more real than this, because this was proclaimed by a lot of people to actually be a genuine crop circle, and they liked it a lot. So. The trouble why we don't actually get round to making footage like this is because, I mean, you've got to have night vision cameras to start with, and in this particular location it was so dark, there was no moonlight, it was heavy cloud cover, it was so dark that the gain had to be turned up on the night vision, so you're seeing these speckles, and there's very little detail really that you can see, and the field was quite far away. I had to use a zoom lens on the front of the night vision to actually be able to see this, which again, that cut down the amount of light that we were seeing through the night vision. And you can see them there filling it in again. We've obviously got back to the beginning now, but 5 hours worth of footage compressed into 5 minutes. So you know, basically this was proclaimed by many to be a real crop circle. That's the interesting thing, is that had people turned around and said that they didn't like this circle, then, you know, we'd be in an awkward position. But a lot of people said that they did like this circle, and that there was a lot of complex geometry in it, and that it would have been very hard to do. Some people said that they had a tip-off that this was going to take place, that somebody had told them that this particular formation was going to take place. Now, I'm not sure. Not exactly sure whether that was true, but certainly there's a website on the internet where people are saying that they had an advanced warning of this particular formation. But the thing is, they didn't show the design. So I mean, saying you have advanced warning of something that's going to happen in a couple of days' time, you know, it's not exact proof, is it? But I think video footage like this is proof. So yeah, there we are. It's a little bit grainy, but go and have a look at the YouTube clip, which will be put on later on for your pleasure, and that will be in high def quality, and you'll be able to see a little bit more. Still very grainy, but you'll be able to see a bit more than you can see here. So check out on YouTube after the show. Right, let's see if Mr. Lyons is back. Let's click this button so we can hear your audio. Are you back with us?
I'm here.
You are here. Good, good. So, right. I take, well, obviously you can't see the footage yourself, so I can't really ask you what your views are on looking at it. But what are your sort of feelings about footage like this? Because a lot of people say that it's kind of tripping up the researchers. Do you think researchers need to be tripped up or shown stuff like this?
I think so, because when you've got situations whereby people are turning around and saying that it's you know, this was caused by a UFO, or it just suddenly appeared, and you know that it's actually been man-made and, you know, man-crafted, or lady-crafted, you know what I mean. But it gets very, very annoying, because you're thinking, especially when you're telling the people that, no, look, this has been made. This has been made. And they go, oh, no, 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 I'm going to do a nice little spin on this one. This one, you know, is very strange, and getting their instruments out and making lots of false claims about it. And I think, you know, to actually have a few of those up there saying, well, come on, you know, there it is in black and white. But the sad truth is that you can go to all of this effort and you'll still get people that they, you know, their belief systems are being attacked here. And
yes,
they're not going to like it, and they're still going to just cover their ears and go, la, 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 can't hear you. And so you just can't win it all the time. But what you're doing here is a very, very good thing in saying, well, okay, because sometimes you get the jibes, don't you? Oh, come on then, prove it.
Exactly,
show me
yes.
one being made.
Yes.
And here it is. And this is where this channel and what you do and your associates are doing is such a good thing, that where they are, you know, man-made, you know, formations, saying, well, look, here we are, here they are, you know, in black and white, and for you to see. Please look at the other side of the coin here. I can't see that many things on the internet looking at the whole enigma from a level-headed approach, apart from yourself and a scant few others.
Yeah.
But the media, as you know, with the UFO, they don't want to hear sometimes that something is quite a down-to-earth object, and sometimes, you know, they'll phone you up, and you've had this before with UFO all crop circles, Matt. They'll phone you up and say, come on, give us a nice big spin on this. Try and tell us some tantalizing stories about it being an alien or being some weird sort of anomalous energy force or something. You say, well, no, I know that one is either in the International Space Station, or I know that crop circle is man-made. No, we don't want to hear that. And you never get printed. And who do they end up printing? The person that absolutely believes everything that is up there or out there is somehow, you know, strange in some way. Yep. Sometimes they just cover their ears, don't they? And yes. I think what you're doing here is absolutely priceless, because it's redressing the balance and I hope that other people also follow in suit and also show that balanced opinion, because it's almost like BUFORA for crop circles, if you like, in the way, same way that we approach the subject. This is the crop circle equivalent, and
with a lot more bad language.
Oh, you've got to have a few of those. It's the passion, my man. It's the passion.
Yes. Yeah, we got somebody in the channel has said, "Oh well, that's one dead." Then by dead they mean like we've taken that crop circle out of circulation as being a sort of weird mystery. Unfortunately, I suppose it does come down to this, though. I mean, it's taken a fair amount of work for me to gain the trust of the circle makers, so that they will allow me to come out and film a circle like this, knowing that it will eventually be exposed, as a man-made one, which some circle makers are happy about, and some don't want to see that happen. They want to see it as this mystery art form and let people make up their minds themselves. But getting to come out as well, I managed to do it 2 times last year, so and that was quite hard going. So we'll have to see where it goes from here, whether or not we can get more invitations. But I personally think it's quite important. But getting the footage is so hard, because I would like to get really high quality footage, much higher quality than that. But we've used up the year now, and we've learnt a lot of lessons by it. So hopefully next year we can actually do something that's a little bit higher quality than that. But I mean, from what we're hearing about the farmers complaining that they're going to sort of cut out any formation that appears, I mean, it seems like it might be a very sacrificial art form at the moment, rather than something a little bit more visitable and permanent. So wherever I end up filming next year, you never know. I might have some of the only footage of the bloody crop circle, because the crop will be harvested as soon as the thing is done by the farmer, according to their threats anyway. So we'll have to see where that goes. But so somebody's saying thanks for doing it, and Wraithy's saying unified field objective, which I believe is Wraithy's art project. So let's have a look further down. They're all chatting away to themselves. So is there anything you'd like to bring up, Matt, about your sort of interest in crop circles, UFOs, something that I haven't touched on so far?
Well, I'd actually like to ask you a couple of questions, which is, are there any farmers that are what you call friendly farmers, or in a situation whereby they know it's happened, but they don't tend to sort of kick up a fuss, and they actually have said, actually, that is quite beautiful, as long as you don't go mad in my fields, but the odd one or two, no problem,
Yes, there have been farmers that are like that, and some of them will accept payment to allow the circle makers to do something. Some of them have said yes, free of charge. They just go and do it, but for the purposes of helping people understand that it is people doing it.
So how much does it work out on a general? I mean, there's no such thing as an average size or shape, but what we call a common average surface area that most people work in. How much would you say is the going rate for, if you said, I'll come to an arrangement with you on the surface area of the corn that's been flattened? Is it so much, £100 or £50? You say there's your money back for the fact that we flattened that little bit there.
Yeah, I think.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it tends to be anywhere from like £100 if you've got a friendly farmer and they're on board. I mean, I've paid £250 to a farmer to do a logo for a company once, and it wasn't very big either, but the company were paying, so that was fair enough. Figures in the regions of about £500 is quite common to £1,000, and I'm sure there have been farmers who have tried to make more out of it than even that. It's really just down to the farmer. I think the trouble is they say that the value of crop has gone up at the moment, so right now it's worth more, so therefore they would charge more. But in previous years, I mean, it has been sort of in those ranges really. So
indeed, I knew that there would have been some good ones, because obviously the media gets hold of all the ones where the farmers are irate. They never seem to print the stories, and I knew there had to be some out there where the farmer was quite happy, for that to go on. The other side of the coin. That's good to hear that side of things as well.
Well, including the farmers who actually just put their honesty boxes on the field and make money from it that way. You know, there's farmers who make quite a bit of money. Like one guy in Avebury made a couple of £1,000 in a week.
Wow. So it can work, you know.
Yeah.
Once again, you know, the press won't print that though, will they?
And he's one of the more angry farmers when it comes to crop circles as well. He's one that doesn't like them now and cuts them out. So
it goes in waves, doesn't it? Unfortunately, I suppose. But I mean, with the circles, I mean, I know the fact that you can actually see some medieval sort of icons, engravings, and drawings from the 1600s, and you can actually see, you know, shapes that have been ploughed into the field, you know, in circles. There's your rarity like that. But of course, you know, I'm sure that, you know, this is an art that's gone back thousands of years, perhaps, because if you hadn't got circles in consideration at all, you wouldn't have got a Stonehenge or more recently discovered Woodhenge. But of course, something as short-lived as corn, you're not going to be able to get something, any ancient preserves, you know, to get out of the ground from that. But you know, it must have started off with circles in, you know, ploughed shapes before people then said, well, let's make it a little bit more substantial and go for the wood and then the stone. Something had to have started somewhere, and the fascination, you know, with all the shapes and that. I mean, it's thousands of years old. So it's a tradition that is, you know, long may it continue.
Yes, I've got some web screens here, which is just looking at this Inkpen Serpent hill formation. I'm just having a look now at the crop circle connector. There's a lot of interesting graphics to do with tridents and serpents. And there's basically a lot of people talking about rock art and serpent art and things like that. And yeah, so let's have a look at some other pages which they're talking, like Wiltshire Crop Circle Studies Group. This is an interesting one. Now this is Francine Blake's group, and she goes on to say, this fantastic example was reported near Inkpen in Wiltshire. Let me see if I can zoom this in. Near Inkpen in Wiltshire / on the Berkshire border, clearly representing a huge serpent with a trident tongue and measuring in the region of 700 feet. It is by far the most impressive design of the season so far. So there we go. You know, reactions from the Wiltshire Crop Circle Studies Group, Francine Blake, saying most impressive design this season so far. And that's right at the end of the season. So basically, it doesn't get any better. So, you know, they're saying that the best formation out there, one of the best formations there, you know, and it's basically, we've shown you tonight it's man-made. So that says a lot, really, doesn't it?
That connects beautifully.
Yeah. So it just goes to show that, you know, these people haven't really got all the answers that they like to say they have. And they're saying, as soon as the formation was reported, it created great interest as rumours of its size spread quickly throughout the crop circle community. Coming on also at the height of the season, when the visitors from abroad were joining with those enthusiasts from the UK, the excitement of this new discovery was short-lived, as the farmer first threatened to spray paint the cars of anyone trying to visit, and then shortly afterwards cut the wheat from the main body of the formation. Latest reports and photos from the 15th of August confirmed that at the time the design was still in the field and still visible. No more of the pattern had been destroyed. We have got some photos coming up showing what actually happened to it when the farmer cut it out. And then it goes on to say, and this is interesting, let me just see if I can zoom back a bit. It says, we've since heard from a local resident that the same farmer had trouble before the appearance of this crop circle with an aggressive group of 500 people taking illegally to his land for a rave, damaging the fencing and scaring livestock. Well, I was actually there at that rave, believe it or not. I was there at that rave as well that happened near that place. It wasn't exactly in the same place. It was a couple of hills over. But I was there when that rave took place. What was quite interesting about that farmer was. He was freaking out on the night of the rave, and then he freaked out when his crop circle appeared there, and he wasn't a very nice bloke by all accounts. He was a miserable, horrible git. And like they said in the report, he was threatening to spray paint people's cars for coming to see the crop circle. So they weren't the people responsible for making it, you know. But he was threatening to spray paint members of the public's cars. So, you know, these farmers, they really are outrageous sometimes with their get off my land attitude that they have. So, yeah. Anyway, I was there. It was an interesting rave. The police were up in their helicopter at £800 an hour, and they were flying overhead and continually pointing searchlights down into the rave. And I believe it got stopped in the morning. I'd actually gone by then, but the police came in and seized the gear. So we still live in a fascist country in the United Kingdom. I mean, a democratic country of the United Kingdom. Yes. Let's have a look at this other page. Let's click this button so you can see what I'm seeing. This is Cosmic Serpent Crop Circle, Westway Woodhay Down, or West Woodhay Down, sorry, 29th of July 2011, so near the end of the season. So you can see some nice pictures there of the design, and the head that you see up on the top right hand side here, the head was at the lower end of the circle we were watching when the video footage we were showing you earlier on, that was down that way, so 90 degrees to the right, and you can see the detail of the trident tongue that comes out of the mouth of the serpent there. Now they've got some video footage in this one, but let's skip on quickly. Dragon in the ground, crop circles and the scalar wave. Sounds very interesting. Let's have a little look at this page. And this is from a page called siderealview.wordpress.com. And they're talking about electrical power, and then electrical power and Cygnus galaxy swans. And then we've got the picture of the crop circle, and it says the West Woodhay Down Inkpen crop circle of 29th of July 2011 is a serpent dragon and represents scalar wave technology seen in our double helix DNA and also in the farthest spiral galaxy. You see, so they seem to be taking this this crop circle rather seriously there. We've got another page talking about the crop circle, and it's nice, real quality, and using the same photos because there weren't many photos taken of this because it got shaved out so quickly. But this is a very interesting one. Right, we're on zephdaemon.nl, and I'm sure he won't like me using much of his website, so I'll skip very quickly across this. But he basically shows you how to design this crop circle by doing, I mean, look how complicated that is, right? I mean, look how many bloody points and lines he's got going, and then he's got lines within the lines and subdividing it into millions of different triangles and segments and da 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 da. It's like, have a look at this now, right? So he's got it that complicated before we even started, and then he's talking about very precise points, nested inside, lines and arcs and things like that. And oh my God, it just goes on and on and on. I suggest you have a look at this at www.zephdaemon, which is ZEFDAMEN.NL. So that's Zeph Daemon's site, and I'll let you have a look at the rest of his site. So I'm just skipping very quickly through it there. Fantastic how people can put so much detail into something that actually wasn't, necessarily that detailed. There's another site here which was talking about the formation, and actually features some comments from this channel. So it shows people actually watching the chat channel, and quoting the chat channel on a website, talking about stuff, and then it comes on to say that they thought that they knew that this formation was going to appear, something like that. So right, well, we'll put that to sleep now. I was going to, just before I go, I suppose, I was just going to show a couple of extra things. Let's just have a little look at, oops, here we go. Come on. Computer goes to sleep. Oh, no, computer goes to sleep. computer not respond, computer really slow. Great. Don't you just love it when they do this? Come on, computer. There we are. Look at this here. I found this picture. I was looking for pictures of Colin Andrews, and I found this picture, which God knows why this is on the internet, but it's got the word granted written underneath it, and it's got a naked guy on a bike, and look at it. It looks like Colin Andrews. What's going on? I can't understand this. It's like, that looks like Colin Andrews to me. So I thought, well, are there any other pictures of, you know, people? If I type in strange things, what will we find on the net to do with people we know who are into crop circles? And then I typed in Francine Blake and found this picture, which I thought was quite interesting. It seems like a new breed of dog. You know, and you should Google these things, because you'll possibly sort of, you know, hit gold dust and find these things. So it seems like a new breed of dog, that it just happens to look like Francine Blake. I typed in Michael Glickman's name and found pictures of Nazi Germany, and somebody who looks remarkably like Mr. Glickman, actually riding on the back of a car with a sort of Nazi emblem on his sleeve. And I can't work out, you know, what's going on here, but I mean, it definitely looks like a real sort of authentic photo. So I mean, I don't know where all these things are coming from. And I typed in Lucy Pringle. I found this amazing example of Lucy's hair, which you know, I've never seen such a good example actually on the net as this particular one. So yeah, you should Google it. You know, Google people's names and try and find out, you know, whether there's any interesting photos there on the net. I found this one of Charles Mallet. You know, see if there's any interesting photos, and if there are, then obviously send them in to CirclemakersTV, and we'll try and feature them on the show. So right, back to our camera for the moment, and I'll try whilst we're chatting. So obviously Matt sadly can't see any of this because he's on Skype with us, and you've got to keep your bandwidth down when you're doing Skype, but
I'll catch up on YouTube later.
Yeah, you'll have to have a look at these. They're quite interesting. You know, it's simulacra of photos. You know, with people's sort of faces looking remarkably like the people that I did type in the names of the search for. So quite fascinating. Right. Well, we've got Matt. Hopefully, it's not updating your screen. The picture of you is not coming up for some reason. So we'll have to go voice only. So some people in channel are saying, look, they look very funny. Yes. Right. Okay. It says Google Wraith. So Wraith is asking if you want to Google him. God knows why this bloody Skype won't come back up now. Is that going to come up? There we go. Right. Okay. Sorry about that. So there's Mr. Lyons again. So, okay, so where were we? We've done UFO sightings near crop circles and why you think that might be the case. What are BUFORA doing at the moment in relation to research? Then, where are you leading the organisation?
Right. Well, the investigations, we've currently done a major overhaul of the vehicle interference report, which is not necessarily just all about cars suddenly coming to a stop in the middle of nowhere, and things like missing time. You know, where somebody can actually feel that they've driven home 2 hours far too late from when they set out on quite a short journey, but all the electrical systems that can stop working. And sometimes, you know, with somebody can feel fine. One of the most amazing things, you know, with some of these vehicle interference reports is that you can have 3 occupants in the same car, say 2 adults, 1 child, or something like that. And the child will actually say, "I just saw a strange light," and the passenger could say they were very alarmed, and they felt that they could almost feel like a paralysis or an electric static about them, and yet the driver could have just completely passed out and seen a light, and then felt like they'd woken up after 10 minutes. It also looks into things such as USOs, which are unidentified submersible objects. You know, where there's been strange lights around ships, which is still a vehicle. Everybody thinks about on the ground-based stuff, and there's also quite a few aeroplane ones there where instrumentation's just there's been something like maybe something similar to a classic Foo Fighter or an orb that's been chasing or playing some sort of Joker chase with a plane, or been in more gentle proximity, and suddenly there's an instrument failure. And just when the pilot's thinking about hitting the eject button after about 20 seconds, all the power comes back on as if nothing's happened. So, there's lots of weird anomalies there, not just on the ground, but in the air, that can stop things from working. Now, whether it's dimensional or it's a few natural phenomenon that, the tricks of Mother Nature give us, that we've still got to work out why they happen and how they happen. So that's been updated. We've also going to be 50 years old next year as well. Started in 1962. And we've got a big conference up in London, which we've got lots of the team, lecturing there. And our photographic expert, Mark Eason, will be there, in lecture. Heather Dixon, as you know, still going strong with the investigations. And we're also looking into
Gloria Dixon. Gloria.
That's right. Yeah. And so we're looking also into the human side and stuff, because there is an awful lot, as we've seen with just this example with the crop circle tonight that you're showing. There are a lot of belief systems intact, where people will actually pile them onto something that, and you actually know you've made it yourself. And also looking into the psychology of witnesses and how they report them and what may actually be driving them. That's not to debunk them or anything like that. It's just to realise that we are in a very, very media-driven society. And perhaps, do we need to take a look back and think, well, the Greys of 100 years ago would have been goblins and beasts and more demonic creatures that might have appeared in dreams. Bad dreams that people might have been having, that might not necessarily be what we call the classic abduction scenario, and just looking into other things that can sometimes put a witness at ease with what they've got. In many cases, we've discovered that people have had sleep disorders, and they've been able to go to the doctor, because we're not physicians and we wouldn't ever put ourselves, onto that pedestal and say, have your sleep patterns checked out. So it's all to do with the psychology of things, as well as the facts and the anomalies. And it's like the layers of an onion. Just as you get better at explaining one kind of UFO sighting in the close encounter category 1, 2, or 3, another kind of anomaly or a different angle comes in on other reports that you review, and new ones are coming in. So the data collection and the analysis is getting better, because obviously, the modern phenomenon and modern groups, from after the Second World War are now half a century old, and they're getting better. But in the same way, unfortunately, you are getting a lot of groups that were convinced, already convinced from a standpoint of alien visitation, that were around, but now it's turned over to a new generation that are wanting to have that thrill and that belief system put into place. A bit like, Oasis. A lot of people said Oasis were almost like, for the Beatles, for those that weren't old enough to remember the Beatles, a new band. In same ways, the new science fiction, thrillers, and also the very, very pro-alien believing websites and paraphernalia are going through a new cycle, which is a little bit frustrating at times, because when you've actually got 50 years of data and research, and it's not the beginning of it in 1947 all over again, and you've got data to say, well, look, here are some, cast iron facts about what you can and still need to leave unexplained as we're rolling on, it gets a bit of a headbanger at times, doesn't it?
I understand you've been doing something with archiving a lot of the material for release.
Yeah, that's going to be going up in about start going up in about 3 or 4 a month's time once we get the bigger bandwidth, and that's all of lectures, just so that people can actually look at all of the, including ones that you yourself have made, Matt. You
Hmm.
know, with a reel-to-reel and some audio and audio and visual conference lectures, so that all of this work and research on crop circles and all sorts of effects and categories, subcategories of UFO sightings, all the research up to now doesn't just disappear,
Hmm.
and and is preserved, and how it's evolved as a subject. So for the very early recordings, it's interesting to see people delving into. You can see the evolution of the fight for categories. What categories to put all of the sightings in and what to abbreviate them, going right the way through to the emergence of considering ley lines, earth lights, all sorts of different debates on the scenarios of whether the intent, if we are being visited, is going to be a gentle visitation, or is it going to be to conquer us? All of those different thoughts and that all going from, and some of the
Hmm.
lecturers that are being preserved, and so that a whole new generation can enjoy them. We'll be able to see, for example, Alan Hynek from the US, Stanton Friedman, and lots of other people, what we consider to be a lot of the great UFO book authors. And we've always had a tradition also of inviting people to speak at conferences that don't necessarily fall in with the way that the society, and the association works in what we work with on our attitudes to investigations. We'll actually have, sometimes we've had speakers, the extreme ends of the spectrum, very sceptical, or also believers as well, because we believe that, that although we have our standpoint, which is in the middle, neither one way or the other, it's very important to actually get all of the opinions that are out there, because you might miss something. So it's totally
Hmm.
open minds all the way, really.
And basically, what you've done then is you've taken a very large archive of your recordings of live lectures and videos of these lectures and on all that sort of material, and some sort of tape recordings that have been released, and everything that's been handed into before. And you've taken all that and converted it to digital format, and
Hmm.
everything is going to be basically put online, so that can anybody access this, or is it just BUFORA members?
It will. All we'll have is just a token fee, and it will only be a tiny amount, like a recurring membership of something like £1.50 or £2 a month.
Right.
That's only to pay for the bandwidth. We're not going to be making a mint out of it, because we want it to be as readily accessible as possible. But
Mm.
that way, it just helps the website pay for itself. So
Right.
it'll be peanuts. You
Yeah.
wouldn't miss it,
So there's
Um,
a lot of
that's
material
it.
there, and it took quite a while for you guys to do that. And I say, a certain person seemed to sort of, he was pushing for all this stuff to be digitized. I remember there's a certain person was pushing for computerization of these records. Do you have any idea who that person was when they were at Bufora?
What, before me?
Hmm.
Let's see. Would it have been yourself?
Yes, it was. In fact, it was
It
me.
was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. When I was at
Well,
Bufora, I thought, you've got to do
yeah.
something with all these files and records. Um, and I suggested the digitization, and it's taken a while, but you are the chairman that's actually sat on seeing it come to its fruition. You've actually seen it through to the final part of the project, which is making as much as can be made public for people to benefit all around the world from the ufological files of
Indeed.
Bufora.
Yeah, I mean, the case files are also on there as well, but to uphold our witness confidentiality, we will be making sure that names can't be seen, even if
Yes.
it's a file that's about 40 years old, to make sure that, the witness pledge, as it's always been there, is upheld throughout, so nobody can guess, where they've lived or anything. Now, it does mean, of course, that we don't, unlike some researchers that will take their witnesses and throw them into the media spotlight. That means we're not as maybe as media friendly, if you like, for that reason. But
Mm.
even if a witness has actually gone on to talk to other UFO groups that want them in the paper, or have gone on to the media themselves, we still won't break the rule they made with us. to
Yes.
actually, keep quiet and make sure that nobody gets that. So any of the case files that will be going up will only really get as close as the hometown and names, and the rest will be there. But that data will actually go up as well.
Yes, and before I went out of the sort of spotlight for a while, and because there wasn't an awful lot going on for a few years, stuff going on in the background like investigations, and this really is going to kind of like be a launch back into hopefully some sort of publicity for BUFORA to kind of say, well, here are our archives, and push it back in that direction, which is quite a positive thing. So something that people might want to then get involved with and sign up if they are interested in, becoming an investigator, because they'll see these files and see these lectures, and gives BUFORA a bigger profile, isn't it?
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, it's all sort of coming full circle, but I'm just I hadn't really thought about. I think a couple of years ago I was becoming 50. I was just sort of rumbling through. Nobody else really didn't really come up in the small talk much, and then Lionel Beer, our president, I asked him a question. I said, is it going to be sort of like 2014, 15? Is that 64? And he said, well, okay, for a very short period we didn't have the R in the name, but for all intents and purposes, for everything as the organisation was, we actually started in 62. And I went, oh my God. I said, that's only about, a year and a half to go before the calendar flips over, so we better get our skates on. And we realised also that since the magazine membership had to really go because of the ebbs and the flows, sometimes you'd have 3,000 or 2,000 members, and then depending on what series or film was out there, there'd be a wave of people signing up on a euphoria of something in the media, such as the X-Files or Close Encounters, and then it goes straight into a dip. And so obviously we're on the website now, which is very, very low cost to produce, and it means that there's not going to be this push and pull where you produce a magazine that then ends up making you lose money just because your membership goes down and then up. And people can readily access the site. It's the only pay thing that's going to really happen. It's just a token fee, which is going to be really, really small for people to access any of the older files. But anything from 2005 onwards, really, the cases since then will be, free to access on the website. It'll just be the huge archive, for the data, and that includes the magazines as well.
And really, a great thing for the archivist Robert Lindsay, who he basically kept all these files and videos, and religiously recorded all of the lectures over the years on reel-to-reel tape and video. And basically a lot of this stuff was getting shunted from one person's house to another, and eventually came to my house. I did a little bit on it, but wasn't able to really complete a great amount. And then it went off to the Netherlands, didn't it? Somewhere.
Oh, Sweden, yes. It's AFU. In fact, if anybody's got any old magazines, even if they're in another language, and you're thinking of throwing them out, or just sort of you haven't got a friend to give them to and you don't know what to do, including also case files that you might have investigated, they operate the same sort of confidentiality on receipt, for research that we do ourselves as an organisation, in terms of donations, and in the situation of case files, they'll respect the confidentiality of the organisation, and you can donate anything from the smallest library book, and they come over to different countries in Europe on a cycle every so often, and I think it's averaged so far in the UK about once every year or so, sometimes less. And there's an article about them on the website. And also, if you want to research more into the crop circles, anybody out there wants to research more into crop circles, and right back to maybe the 1970s and the awakening in the analysis of it from point of view of articles and books. You can actually phone them up or contact them by email, and they'll actually put a research out for you, for materials from other countries and stuff. So it's now, because of all the stuff coming from places, not just Europe and America, it's a massive mega library of everything, to do with UFO phenomena, and also some Fortean, magazines have been built up in collections. And so the way it all started was Klaus Van, who was the just didn't get to in time. A Swedish UFO researcher who passed away. His family didn't see the value of all of his lifetime's work, and it all went into a skip. And he said that has not, that's just got not to happen again. And so that's how the inspiration for the library started. And it formed from there. So, and data's everything really, because as you know, when you build up all of the patterns of different case files that come in on all different aspects of this broad, Church of ufology, and all of its different strange events that can happen in it. If you've got the data building up, you get closer and closer to being able to understand a lot of these strange things that we can't explain.
Yes.
It's good stuff, accumulated. And I say to anybody that's actually got their crop circles out there at the moment with their photographs and their pamphlets and so on, that they've or research papers to the wider community. Look on YouTube. Hold on to everything you've got. Back it up to CD. Because and you can donate it in confidence. To AFU, who will store it all in library, standard conditions, just so there's a backup copy there, so that the research can be tapped into by somebody that, maybe in 80 or 100 years' time.
There we go. A good idea. So if you've got any old stuff lying around, any old UFO files from a relative who may have passed away and has been kept in the attic, there's your answer. Don't throw them in the bin, or don't use them as lighting paper for your fire. Submit them to the AFU in Sweden and do some good. So, well, we're coming up on 10 o'clock now, so I think we've covered most of our subjects, unless there's anything else you wanted to sort of bring up, Matt. And I'm thinking of bringing the show to a close, and we'll sort of let you get back off to your Christmas wrapping or something you were up to, weren't you? You were getting a hassle off the family.
That's it. Yeah.
Yes.
That's it.
So he's made a lot of effort here to come on this show. He's pulled himself away from important, Christmas wrapping. His wife wasn't really, she was like, oh God, and he said, I might only be able to do an hour, because my wife is not going to let me do this. And I said, no, Circlemakers TV, mate, Your wife will nag you every day, but Circlemakers TV will only ever beef once. So.
Indeed.
So there we go. Right, so on that note, I think what we'll do is we'll finish with a little YouTube video I found of West Woodhay Down, otherwise known as Inkpen Hill, and we'll finish with that. And don't forget, click onto YouTube just after the show finishes. Maybe give me about 20 minutes, and I will put the links up there for the Inkpen, I call it, Inkpen Serpent formation, and you can have a look at it in high definition. So thanks everybody in channel for your comments. People are saying thank you, Mr. Lyons from Ronin XYZ, or Ronin XYZ, sorry. And there we are. And Demon Bunny says he was staying night to Jay. I'm sticking around till the end, whatever that means. So, okay, thanks everybody in channel, and thank you for tuning in. We'll try and get you some more crop circle footage of other formations that have been made. As I say, I'm just a journalist. I didn't take part in the formation. Somebody had to be up there on the hill filming, and I exercise my journalistic privilege to not give away my sources. So I won't be telling anybody about that sort of stuff, and basically I am a journalist, so I don't think anybody can do anything about that. So thanks, Matt, for taking part and giving us an insight. Hope to see you on the show maybe again in the future, and watching and coming in the chat channel. So, okay, well, thanks very much, and we'll catch you all again soon. Have a happy Christmas, everybody. I hope the Serpent hasn't disappointed anybody. I hope it excites the imagination, and we'll catch you in the new year with more Circlemakers TV. So, thanks very much.